Welcome, everybody. So today we're going to talk about modern retailing. I'm not sure exactly what that means, so that's why we have these four really smart people here. Modern retailing, what does it mean to you? Let's just start with that, and maybe we could use that question as a way for you to tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're so smart and why you're here. Alex, I want to start with you.
Sure. Good morning. Alex Zoghlin. I'm the CEO of ATP Co. For most people, that's the company you've never heard of. We're an airline-owned entity that basically collects all of the data associated with pricing, and then we distribute it back out to the industry to calculate fares. We also build the standards around that. Most recently, we acquired a company called RouteHappy, which then includes all of the metadata associated with those. The better way to put it is we believe that we can actually help the industry change here fairly dramatically. Since this is we are the company that essentially set up the status quo and how published pricing happens today, we are actively working today to think about how this works in the future. Through RouteHappy, it's all that metadata around are there places to stay in are there lounges to stay at the airport? Is there Wi-Fi on the plane? What's the seat pitch? All of that type of data is the data that we're now collecting and distributing to help people actually search by attribute, not just by price. And when it comes to price, we're actively working on creating tests and standards around dynamic offers, dynamic pricing, so that the industry from a retailing perspective can go beyond where it has been historically.
Okay. Traci?
Well, I'm Traci Mercer, and I am from Sabre, probably a company many of you have heard of. I oversee what's referred to as our marketplace. And so that is our distribution business, but really a lot of the transformation that we're taking as the industry's moving and as we're moving, leading the transformation of how we think about our technology changing. As I think about this, I really want to put a lens on the customer. And from my perspective, it's really, when I think about modern retailing, let's forget about airlines and our siloed industry and instead focus on personalization, on the data that it takes to drive that personalization, and how we ultimately bring customers value in what they want. Talking about merchandising or retailing to a customer really falls on deaf ears. It's just about get me what I want when I want it, and make it a great experience. And I think that's one area from a modern retailing perspective we have to lean into more, and that's the fulfillment arm.
Yeah. Jafri, tell us about Enriva.
Good morning. I'm Jafri, and I've been in the business for about 40 years in the travel business and have built 7 companies. This is my 8th company. So, technology has been transforming the industry. As you probably remember, that before the internet, there were no OTAs. After the internet, there's a whole world of OTAs, big companies. We believe that AI and NDC and voice technologies are going to again transform the industry. So we are looking at creating an abundance of options and products and the offers that the customers are looking for. So today, the industry, as we see it, is based on a scarcity of options, a scarcity of products that are available to the individual. That's why they go out on the web, they search across the web to find the products. There is no central marketplace where somebody can go and find everything. And I just give you a quick example of, there is, if you're looking for cameras, for example, you'd go to Walmart, the largest retailer in the world, you go into a store, and you will find 35 different kinds of cameras, which is great. But then Walmart created Walmart.com to broaden the offering, to make more offers available. And if you go to Walmart.com, you get 400 kinds of cameras, which is 10x what you get in a store. But then there is Amazon, and if you go to Amazon, there's 8,000 cameras available. So that, to us, is a true abundance of options that are available to a consumer. In the travel industry, we still operate in the silo of the brick and mortar stores, the .com, we don't have a true marketplace where you have all the suppliers from all the options come into one place, so the consumer doesn't have to go and search across the web to find what they're looking for. So that, to us, is the future of the industry, and that's what is OnReva trying to build.
Cory?
And my name's Cory Garner. I'm the co-CEO of Travel Technology Research, also known as T2RL. We are the world's largest buyers of airline technology, doing a little over $1 billion a year worth of business on the part of our airlines. And what we also do is, as a part of that business, we advise on the overall tech stack strategy for airlines and their distribution strategy that goes with it, because the technology suppliers are often the distributors as well. And because of our position, we also serve as a really interesting resource for investors in airline tech companies and potential investors in airline tech companies. Now, when it comes to modern retailing, what it means to me is right product, right place, right time, right price. And when I say right, I mean not just right for the airline, but right for the customer as well.
Yeah. So, it's interesting because it comes from a little different perspective. Seat offerings, priority boarding, personalization, give customers what they want, creating a marketplace that provides a lot of offerings. And, in terms of what you're just saying, which is just pure marketing, right? Just the right place, right time, right price. So what does the customer want? Because, we need to really think about, we're all coming in different directions. Are we overthinking it? What is, because you said it's not just about what the airlines want. We got to think about what people want, what the buyers want. Mm-hmm. What are they looking for?
I try not to overcomplicate these things. I think Cory is in the right direction, which is you can't put consumers in a box. There's too many segments. So that consumer needs the right information. That's where we start. They need the right information at the right time to make the right decision. So, so for us, we're focused on what is all that information that's necessary for a consumer to really make a good decision, and for sellers and distributors to really use that information to curate a specific message for that consumer. We don't pretend to be able to do that on behalf of our customers, but for us, it starts with the right information. The airline industry in particular, unlike the hotel industry, started with a dearth of information. If you look at the old green screens from mainframes of yesteryear, right? It was.
You're looking at me?
No, sorry, didn't mean to be. You don't do that anymore, right? But if you look at yesteryear, this is where the airline started. Frankly, not the GDSs. It was all about price and route. And schedule. That was it. So really bringing that along into a richer environment where you have a lot better information to make a decision. And ultimately, we hope you can customize that offer in a way that's relevant for the consumer. That's where retailing really hits home.
Right, but we talk about this customization. We've been talking about this obviously for quite a long time. What's blocking it? And so we're an industry of silos in terms of GDSs, OTAs, suppliers, corporations, TMCs. Or am I missing? Is it kind of a cultural effort to make this work? And are there too many differences among these various silos to bring it all together? I know that's a big question.
I think the gating factor has been technology. The technology didn't exist to bring all this into one place. Mm-hmm. And now there is technology. If you look at NDC, there is much richer content than what Alex was talking about. The limited content that would come through the GDS, only 3 variables: flight, schedule, and price. And then you look at NDC, and you have 26 variables. And then you look at airlines, there used to be economy class and first class, and now within economy, there are fare families that are all the way up to 7, 8 different fare families. And if you are looking to parse through all of that, there's going to be so much information to be able, first, to bring it down to the consumer, which you need a new pipe to bring the information through. And secondly, to display it to the consumer so they can make sense out of it. That's where AI and machine learning comes in, because first you need to understand what the consumer is and what they want, and then you customize that product to that customer's requirements, which is what AI and machine learning is all about. So without that, you couldn't do what we are talking about because the technology didn't exist.
I think there's also another point there, which is thinking about the collaboration that this siloed industry needs. I think you said it well by saying that we're a siloed industry. Not only are we siloed, but we're very insulary as an industry. We were actually joking about that before we got on stage. We all know each other from different jobs, and many is the same for you in the audience. We need to get out. We need to experience other industries, experience other technologies, and take that outside in view, not just from the customer, but also from the technology. Without that coordination and that collaboration across the entire marketplace that enables it, but across an entire ecosystem that supports it, we're not going to be able to get this to the customers. You're not going to be able to apply intelligent AI or ML if the OBTs aren't even putting this on their screen because they haven't modified the UX to adapt to these changes. And so I think that is a transformation that we all have to get out of our operational mindset and our silo and really think across the ecosystem.
And to me, it's kind of a combination of the two. If it were just about technology, there's no reason why the airline business should be as far behind other industries that have developed on the basis of technology, right? If it was just technology, you would expect them to catch up. I think the collaboration point is a good one as well. You know, if you think about what you need in order to do retailing as an airline, you need basically three things. You got to have a brain that produces the offers. You got to have a cash register that takes the payment, and then you have to have a distribution network. And so that's a technology problem to solve, but it's also a problem, particularly when it comes to the distribution network, of aligning interests. So sometimes the silos exist because not all the parties in the distribution chain have exactly the same interests. And that was part of the story, if we're all being honest here. That was part of the story of the evolution of NDC over the last 10 years.
Yeah. So what are we missing, the brains or the cash?
We're missing a bit of all of it right now. If you're an airline and you're looking at things like ancillaries and personalization and dynamic pricing, a system doesn't exist today that ties all those together really nicely in a tight little ball that can be revenue managed. That's still evolving. If you look at the cash register, you've got cash registers at just about every airline today that are still based upon PNR, ticket, EMD stuff. The ticket standard was first developed, I think, in the 1930s. And so it's done very well as standards go, but the complexity of the brains is now starting to outstrip the cash register's ability to catch up. And so that's where IATA one order standards come in eventually. And then when you look at the distribution network, the industry's come a long way in terms of NDC. T2RL tracks this on a global basis, and NDC did about, or Direct Connects did about 10% of global volume last year during the pandemic, up from 5% the year before. But 10% after 10 years, if we continue at this pace, we might be around for a while.
Yeah. So the progress with NDC really depends on who you ask, right? You know, is there just too much controversy to see it through, or is it just a matter of time?
I think it's a matter of time because it has to happen. And, you know, because I mean, if you look at the industry from the consumer's point of view, they look at a very fragmented industry. They look at, you know, I can buy directly from the airlines. I can go to an OTA. I can go to a TMC. I can go to a travel agency. Why can't I have all this in one place? Even if the industry has silos, they can still come together in one place on one platform. So that you give the consumer the option of, you know, they have choices. They have an abundance of choices. They can buy directly from the airline. They can buy directly from an OTA. They can buy from a travel agency. That kind of platform doesn't exist in the industry today. And I think that's what the industry needs, because even it can bring the silos together. And if you do that, then you have satisfied the need of the consumer, which what every industry tries to do. How can we make the consumer happy by giving them all the choices they're looking for and making it easy for them to buy it with one click or two clicks and get their transaction done?
Anyone else? NDC, just a matter of time?
Yeah, it's just a matter of time. From our perspective, we think that there's some standards opportunities. If you think about it from a seller perspective, NDC doesn't cover all the things that the old world covers. We have to be honest about that, and we have to bring it up to modern expectations so that sellers don't have a whole new set of technology and infrastructure that they have to build just to do what they were able to do the day before. That's kind of number one. And number two, you've got this brand new pipe, super great. We spent 10 years talking about the pipe, but we really haven't spent a lot of time about what's the new conversation on the pipe. If it's the same conversation that was there before, in our world that means if you're taking ATPCO fares and moving them from the GDS to an NDC pipe, what's the difference for the traveler? So how can we get a new conversation starting to happen on NDC that is in the best interests of everybody in the industry?
I would kind of narrow it down to, I think we need 4 things, and very aligned with what everyone else on the panel has said. Number one, we need solutions for our airline partners that actually enable them to do this. We need the technology and the solutions. Sabre has introduced some that are powered by our AI, our artificial intelligence. So we have Pricing IQ, as an example, is one of our products that is out there. But in addition to that, we need the NDC pipes to support consistency in distribution. We talk about the consumer. A consumer doesn't generally make a decision of where they're going to go book their travel. They may be searching on their phone, they might search somewhere else, their corporation may tell them they have to go through XYZ booking tool. That experience, regardless of direct or indirect, for that consumer needs to be enabled and consistent, and that is not something fully fulfilled through the NDC pipes today. We also, thirdly, need to design points of sale and interfaces that can actually absorb this, have manifested that we're not seeing all green screens, and that we can ensure those components are broken out. And then finally, I think one of the other things I'd underscore is just back to the collaboration. You can't get all of those things unless the industry's coming together and working on that. This has taken ridiculously long to get out, and it's going to take ridiculously longer to move forward. That's the industry you're in. That's why travel is complex. We know that. That's why we stick with it, because we finally figured something out. And like, I can do this. So I think that's the path we need to go down.
So let's talk about the corporations, because they're playing a big role in this as well.
Yeah.
You know, what do they need to do with their programs? You know, I mean, they need to, you know, what they've been doing, it seems since the pandemic, is kind of tightening, pulling back, a lot of restrictions, you know, as opposed to saying, no, we need wider offerings, we need more variety, we need to allow more decision making on the corporate side. So what do they need to do with their programs to kind of embrace, you know, this idea of modern retailing and giving more choice for their employees?
I'll share with you because, you know, we handle a lot of corporate accounts. Mm-hmm. So corporations historically have these fixed policies that are, you know, 50 years old policies that there's a binder which is 100 pages and it says do this and you can't do this and all that. And they have said you have to work with this travel company. The fact is that 50% of the employees go outside the travel program. I mean, that's data shows it, because they are looking for more choices that are not available from a single travel provider. Mm-hmm. So no matter how big of a TMC you are, most companies lose 50% of their travelers that go to the airline direct site to buy there, or they go to the web to buy, and they justify because they find better deals on the program. And this is a frustrating experience for the travel manager, for the CFO, for the traveler, because everybody is at odds with each other. With new technology, if you make it available that they can go buy anywhere they want to, which is, you know, in a marketplace, and you have technology, AI, machine learning, that provides advice, so a kind of AI advisor that says to the traveler, if you're going to buy this, this is within your program. If you're buying this, this is good for the company. It may not be in the program, but it knows what the company wants, because this is AI machine learning. It knows what the traveler wants, and it balances the program in real time for the company, for the traveler, for the CFO. Yeah. That's the opportunity. The traveler would be happy because they have an abundance of choices. The CFO would be happy because they can see the savings in real time, because all that data is being captured as the transactions are happening in an open marketplace. And the travel manager is happy because they can provide duty of care, they can provide reporting, they can have full visibility into what the traveler is doing in the marketplace. To us, that's the new world of corporate travel.
Okay. John?
To me, the answer starts with content. I think a lot of corporate customers out there are being very logical in how they're approaching this. If they felt like there was unique content to go get, I think many of the leading thinkers out there would be go getting it right now. And so there's
Chicken and egg. Is that-
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
but chicken and egg probably, because a leading group of airlines and a leading group of corporate customers need to get together and talk about what content is actually going to float the corporate customer's boat. And when that happens, the corporate customer needs to, first of all, put their online booking tool business out for bid. Because not all the online booking tools out there are capable or even interested, really, in supplying this content. Secondly, the corporate customer needs to think about putting their TMC business out for bid as well, because the same problem exists there. The technical readiness and the commercial readiness to support a change like this isn't necessarily there with every TMC. And so if those three things come together, the content and the booking tool and the TMC support, then you can start seeing some change happening in the corporate market.
We agree the OBTs aren't ready?
I think some are ready. Actually,
Yeah, some are ready.
some are definitely ready. I know at Sabre, one of the things that we've done is, regardless of what pipe the content comes through, or if it's filed through ATPco, if it's coming through an NDC pipe, it's coming through some other XML type feed, our job is to make sure we take all that content, that we normalize that, and then we make it moving forward with APIs so it can be absorbed and adopted. Now, some of the UIs on the OBTs aren't ready, but ultimately that's Sabre's job. And we own one of the corporate booking tools in the space. Get There is a Sabre-owned asset. And for the last several months, we've actually been testing our new NDC-capable APIs and NDC services that do exactly that, so that you're able to consume content and not have to know what sits behind. Did that get filed from ATPco? Did that come through the NDC pipe? And that's something that we're going to be making those APIs, those fully serviceable APIs, are coming to in the next days to be generally available to the public. And I think that's where the industry has to go, and that's the role that we play in this, is pulling that in, normalizing that content. This degree of fragmentation that we're experiencing now in the airline industry is not unknown to other industries. It's not unknown to other sectors. It's not even not known to travel. Go to the activities business, go to the hospitality business. Fragmentation is the norm. And this is a different type and a different scale, but certainly it's how we need to think about it.
Okay. Just a reminder, there is a microphone here. If anyone has a question, just step up to the microphone. Okay. All right. Everybody's known. So let's talk about speechless. Let's talk about the context, right? How do we, because if we are going to do this true customization, personalization, obviously you need to know a little bit about the traveler. Where is that piece coming from? How far are we in having the data that we need to really understand the traveler? What are the next steps there? And to really have a traveler-centric approach, not the supplier-centric approach, the traveler-centric approach.
I think for the traveler-centric approach, because we do a lot of work on that, because there are three ways of becoming traveler-centric. One is declarative. The traveler says, this is what I like. The second is their behavior when they're actually buying. So a traveler can say, I prefer American Airlines. But when they're actually buying, you're seeing that they're buying United. And you say, why are they buying United? And then AI machine learning tries to adjust and make sense out of it. And third is, whatever is available on social media about the traveler. If you take all that information, you can build a very good profile and understanding of the traveler. In the old world of travel, the airlines, the hotels, they used to push the content out. They didn't care who the traveler was. And it was the same content for everybody. But if you start from the traveler and go backwards, then you say, okay, let me understand the traveler, and now let me go shop for them. Then you can create a very good experience for the traveler, because now you're building the product exactly for that traveler.
Okay.
So I'm going to be a little bit of a contrarian here, because sometimes we have to be careful with the personalization down to one. If we look at American's 10K from 2018, 87% of the people who booked on American had no loyalty status on American. They were one and done. So for those individuals that travel once a year, if they go on to go see their grandma or they go on a vacation, what you want to make sure is that they don't have to go to 100 places to find the best price, right? You're not personalizing to the point where you're confusing them. You want them to feel comfortable with what they see is going to be good. So when we think about personalization, we think about it not for everybody, but for not even a select few, but for a smaller segment of the population that really does have choice and has a travel wallet that's going to that has options. For those that are what I call one and done, what becomes more important is, can I offer them other things beyond just the base fare of if I combine the base fare plus a bag, am I more likely to get a higher average revenue? It's those types of things that are probably going to be more valuable. So it's more of an offer than it is a personalization fact. And for us, that does mean that you need two very important pieces of information. You need to know what the competitive landscape is up to, because you don't want to make an offer that is outside of the market. That's not good. That's not good for your bottom line. Right. Then you also need to know something about the consumer. And for this to work, again, we think that there's standards that can help so that if he has really unique information about his customer segment, he can send that through NDC to an airline and they can ingest it in a way that's usable. Otherwise, it becomes a one-off for each airline. Then you have to get into their backlog. It'll be 90 years before you actually make that enabled. So for us, it's really all about the standards to let this type of data flow back and forth that would allow these companies to offer really something unique in the marketplace.
And I would echo what Jafri and Alex just said. To me, there's two entirely different data sets that are required to make this work. One is the data set that's required to identify which is the right product to put on the shelf in front of a customer at a given time. And a lot of what they were talking about relates to that. But there's an entirely different set of data, which is around what price should you offer the customer at a given time. And which price you offer the customer can be fatal if you make the wrong price offer, particularly when it comes to the fare itself. And the data sources that are required to power continuous pricing, dynamic pricing of fares in order to do that in a really competitive way doesn't really exist at scale right now. So airlines that go down the path of continuous pricing are effectively playing a game of rock, paper, scissors, where their competitors always have to go first, and then they put a continuous price in the marketplace, and their competitor never knows it's there because the data is becoming more opaque as dynamic pricing picks up.
Right. Okay. So we talked a lot about barriers, and I think we just have a minute left. So what I'd like to do is just everyone just kind of go around, and if we had to say, like, what is that one thing that needs to happen to make modern retailing a reality, what would it be?
For us, there needs to be standards in the marketplace, standards around the data, standards around the offer, because that'll bring new entrants into the market that can then offer services not to one airline or one GDS, but to hundreds of them at once and create a real market. So for us, if we can start to standardize the inputs and outputs around how this works, we think we can start to bring competition, and GDSs can start to sell their things to more airlines faster, and end sellers can take more of this to more airlines faster.
So standards.
Standards is really where we think it's
Traci?
going to play.
I think collaboration, I'll go back to that. I think it's incredibly important, particularly as someone who enables the airline industry, the entire travel industry across all spectrums. We need to have collaboration, yes, standards as well, but I think that's the key for us.
Jafri?
I think we have to create abundance of choices for the consumer, for the traveler, and you can only do that with collaboration from all the partners, that they participate in one platform. Everybody participates, bring their product, and give the consumer the tools to sort through that and be able to pick the perfect product that's good for them.
Collaboration and Cory?
It's time to upgrade the cash register at airlines. If you
Break
can offer
out
a
the
million,
cash.
if you can offer a million SKUs, you need to be able to fulfill a million SKUs as well. So it's time for a lot of airlines to start thinking about how IATA's one ordered standard is going to play in their future.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Alex, Traci, Jafri, Cory. Thank you.